Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the NRG series in Lansing, Michigan. I'm Mason Clark, joined by Devin O'Donnell, otherwise known as Doomwake. And Ross Merriam's supposed to be here, but he said, no VV Cauldron for me. He said, I'm going to sit back, Mason, go do the work for me. So you're stuck with me all for at least another round. Maybe Ross will come up to the idea of wanting to cover some VV Cauldron. But don't worry, it's not all VV Cauldron today, Devin, because we're going to cover some other matches here in round number 6.
Well, okay, we'll see some other decks. There may or may not be some Cauldron in the feature match area. I was going to mention, you said that Ross didn't want to cover any VV Cauldron. Well, you might be here the whole night then. I'm just
yeah.
Gonna throw that out
there. We'll have to see. We all have shooters out there, right? Trying to get them their thing, and some of us more invested than others. We'll have to see exactly how that plays out here. But speaking of plays out, these players are in the feature match area mulliganing already. So let's jump right down to it. They are ready to game as we have Jacob Tano on your left with the VV Cauldron Menace versus Zoe Riederman on the right with Demir Midrange. Been watching NRG for a long time. You've seen a lot of Zoe, and she's putting up a good performance today with this deck.
Oh yeah, Zoe, a mainstay of the NRG series, been at a lot of our tournaments, and she always seems to find her way to the top of the tables. And this is kind of the matchup of the standard format. These are probably, I guess, over the past couple of weeks, the most popular decks. Although looking at the metagame from today's event, that necessarily is not the case. But just this is sort of the matchup that you need to figure out from the Demir side. Is like, how are you supposed to attack this Cauldron deck? I think in general, I would say that it's definitely a close matchup. Personally, I would rather be on the VV Cauldron side of things, but Demir definitely has a lot of tools, things like out of the sideboard, like Annul, Tishana's Tidebinder to turn off the Cauldrons and whatnot. So I'd be very interested to see how this matchup plays out, and I'm sure that Zoe's played against Cauldron to get here at 4-1, in this event.
Oh, definitely. And it's not like it's a surprise. Zoe has to have plans for this deck. Smuggler's Surprise deck, maybe get got a little, but not here.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. Yeah, I was going to say, Zoe can force Jacob to sort of, answer the bat by taking the profs here and not taking the steam room, which means, if Jacob draws another answer spell, right, then it kind of goes around weirdly. I know it's a very awkward situation to be in, but basically you force Jacob to use all the mana now to get the bat to get your profs back. And if Zoe has another bat, then she's bought some time to maybe make land drops and work towards Curiosity. It's a weird play on its surface, but it might work out really well for her here.
Or something like a Preacher of the Schism, right? If you look at Zoe's deck list, she is playing 2 copies of that card. So it's interesting from Jacob's sort of things. It's like Jacob has a lot of removal that's targeted more towards smaller things, like stuff like Torch the Tower and Abrade. But if Zoe can sort of force, like you mentioned, force Jacob to use that premium removal spell in Roaring Furnace on a 1/1, maybe Jacob doesn't have an answer to something like a Preacher of the Schism down the road. As we see a second bet here, and that is going to go ahead and take the Floodmaw. And now Jacob is just left with no interaction, which, his hand is pretty scary, not going to lie. But, maybe Zoe can sort of take advantage of the fact that Jacob can't really answer the battlefield right now, and maybe start deploying some of those bigger threats, like you mentioned, during Curiosity of that nature.
Yeah, and we get the third land there from Zoe. I thought there was a second where maybe kept the old 2-land, 2-bat hand, and I was like, all right, I've been there on the mulligan, you do what you gotta.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Jacob decides to go with. A lot of options here. Could go something like a Cauldron. Jacob notably did miss land number 3. So, if he doesn't draw a third land here, can't deploy one of those 3 drops that we saw. And looks like picked up a second Mako, because I believe there was only one in the hand when that happened. So going to deploy 2 Makos. And that's going to really threaten a scary turn next turn if Jacob can find that third land.
Yeah. Things could go a little crazy here. Zoe's shocking if I've ever seen a Curiosity before. Yeah, just main phase attack.
Love it.
Don't forget to, flashing your Curiosity before damage. You're going to do it. Just do it.
Now, the question here is, assuming Jacob does find a land off the top, how good is this Curiosity? Because, Jacob can deploy that Steam Core Scholar, discard 2, potentially get to Delirium, have 2 3/3 Makos. One of them can attack twice with the fear of missing out. So you figure maybe Zoe can eat the fear on the first attack, take 6, and then trade for the Mako on the second attack. So actually, not too bad, all things considered here for Zoe, even if Jacob can, get Delirium this turn for the FOMO.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best situation she's ever been in, but it's a totally winnable one. And what she kind of has to do something here, right? Like she's had a couple turns that were a little awkward. She sort of forced Jacob's hand, but then Jacob didn't draw the land, so he was pretty okay just to kill the bat, right? That's a
Yep.
spot where that play would have been a lot better if Jacob maybe, quote unquote missteps and this plays a Steam Core Scholar or something. But now Zoe is sort of got the ground kind of locked up, and the bat can't attack.
And during curiosity, heck of a blocker right there. You don't
Yeah.
really want to attack into that thing. Like I meant, like basically that one enduring curiosity staved off what 11 damage that turn because if it was just
Mhm.
any other thing, maybe you trade for a Mako in combat, you still take 3, 6, 7, 8. So that was a very, very it is known as a good attacker, but it certainly plays defense very, very well as well.
Yeah, Zoe in an interesting spot too. She has a shoot the sheriff and a curiosity in hand. Okay, yeah, but she only has 5 mana, so it looks like she is going to shoot down the Steam Core Scholar and get in with at least the bat. There is a Kaito, but if she Kaitos, then Jacob gets the Flood Maw to bounce the cat.
Yeah, you could Kaido to pick up the curiosity, but I mean, you probably have to hold back the curiosity. So
Yeah.
that isn't really a line that you can really take. So yeah, kind of an awkward spot here for Zoe. Doesn't really have any great attacks. And presumably, Jacob probably found something to grow the Makos next turn. So if the Makos can become, say, 5/5s, for example, then the attack actually looks a lot better because maybe you lose a FOMO, but you're dealing a ton of damage to Zoe in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I think Zoe's going to attack with the bat no matter what because she's going to get her card. Yeah, it looks like Zoe's just deciding, can I risk it here and attack with the cat and try and get more cards?
Yeah, now if you're in Jacob's spot, do you want to trade with this curiosity? Presumably, I mean, maybe it depends on what he drew off of the Steam Core Scholar, but I would guess no. You just take this hit. Because like worst case scenario, if Zoe has something like you said, the Kaido, maybe if she picks up the bat, Jacob gets the Flood Maw back. You can lock down the fear of missing out, but then you have the Flood Maw to answer curiosity. So yeah, and you see Zoe here doesn't even want to go for the Kaido because she just doesn't want to use her mana. Maybe has potentially another removal spell in hand.
Yeah. Try to trajectory would be an amazing draw here. I was going to say, if she can try to trajectory this FOMO, she's actually like in a very good position. But Jacob lost 5 life there, down to 14.
Ooh, there's a Cauldron. And Mason, I don't know if you checked last turn, but there was a VV discarded to that Steam Core Scholar. So this is
Yeah.
potentially 9 mana that Jacob has access to. Now, Zoe does have 2 Tishana's Tidebinders in her main deck. So we'll see well, she probably would have done it by now. So I'm assuming that's not in her hand.
Yeah. She does have a shoot the sheriff, which can only hit fear of missing out currently. Those are pirates.
Yeah,
Maybe she didn't have a shoot, actually.
that's one thing that it's so funny to me how like we sort of went from 0 to 100 on Shoot the Sheriff, where everybody thought it was going to be like this immediate replacement to Go for the Throat, and
Mhm.
then this blue red BB Cauldron deck sort of became dominant in the format, and that deck plays 4 Mako and sometimes 2 to 3 copies of Soulstone Sanctuary, which are just cards that you can't hit with the Shoot the Sheriff.
All right. Mako has now used the first Mako, I should say, used its mana. Jacob's going to draw 2. We maybe have to discard 2, but not the end of the world because it would grow the Makos. And we do have that sauna room we can unlock as well. Now, we're double checking. That's still into the Flood Maw over there. We'll
Okay,
get
now
Jacob's life total updated for you in a second. We're sorry about that.
I'm trying to figure out which one was used. I'm guessing so. There's like you see how there's one off to the right hand side, and then there's the one on the
Mhm.
left that's kind of grouped with the FOMO.
It's the
I'm
one
get
to the side because he like kind of
Yeah,
touched it
yeah.
and moved it, I think. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. I
Mhm.
usually put mine upside down when I use them, but
Yeah.
this is where we need the Nadu counter where it's like the thing in the middle where you just like put them on the left and the right. Need
Mhm.
one of those.
Speaking of the left and the right, Jacob can kind of dance wherever he wants. There's a lot of cards coming his way and a lot of power.
Yeah, and then the FOMO. Okay, so we lost the creature. Did we put a 4? Oh, we still because the Steam Core Scholar. Okay, so we still had an extra creature. So we still have Delirium.
Yeah. We can also just attack with this Tursa too. in one of the attack steps as well. We're getting another profs. I assume this is lethal. I haven't done the math, but there's like 4 3s attacking, and there's another one coming. It's just like I
It's
assume things are
probably
bad.
enough.
Okay, she had a bitter triumph as the other kill spell. Okay,
Ah.
discard Kaito.
That one can kill Mako.
Yeah, I think that's what Zoe was going for. I think she was hoping that Jacob would do a little, put some on the Mako, thinking it plays around, shoot the sheriff, and then Zoe was going to get him. Which makes some sense. Looks like Jacob's maybe double checking something.
All right, so a lot of damage coming in here. Question is for Zoe is, can she survive? Looks like the answer is yes. Okay. So combat sort of, I guess, crisis averted, but also at the same time, not really, because Jacob has, 4 creatures, and any 2 of them would represent lethal, plus the FOMO gets an extra combat step. And on top of that, Jacob has a 5/5 blocker, so it's really hard for Zoe to kind of push through and even get an extra card deeper off of that curiosity.
I like the hat. Zoe's kind of aura farming. You can't see her eyes, at least in coverage. Unfortunately, even with all this aura, I don't think we can overcome the current battlefield situation. If
Yeah,
Jacob was lower, like if we had been able to kind of hit in maybe a turn sooner, where Jacob
yeah,
had stumbled 1 turn more, we could have maybe got here. But
I'm trying to think of what a winning situation even looks like for Zoe from this spot. Like removal spell on Steam Core, attack with Bat, rip a Flood Pits the fear of missing out, trade for the Tursa, take 4 or 5 damage, something along those
yeah,
lines.
Jacob needs to draw
Okay.
lands too,
Yeah.
which is all
All right.
doable.
That's step 1. So now Zoe can hit in with the bat, draw a card. Actually, going up to 7 is not super irrelevant here because there are 2 3-power creatures, so she can actually take 6 from. Well, I guess not really because the cauldron. So
Yeah, but it does. It means she has like a little bit of breathing room against like the Steam Core Scholar type stuff in the future turns too. If she ends up like flashing in the curiosity and double blocking or
yeah,
double jumping, so I imagine she needs to probably keep the cats around to attack. All right, cycle of profs.
yeah. Jacob really looking for something like a Winter Night Stories. That one would, because he effectively has access to near infinite mana. So you could just, cast that one, flash it back immediately, and probably, presumably, in 6 cards, find some things to help close the finish line here. But Jacob does need to find some spells because, as the board currently sits, does not have access to a lethal attack here. Keep in mind, there's some, there. I don't know how much it's going to matter this game, but there is some interesting play between Cauldron and Curiosity, where if Zoe decides to trade for the Curiosity in combat, Jacob can actually exile the Curiosity in response to its trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, not sure if it's super relevant in this spot, but definitely something to think about. We're doing a Tersa trigger. All right, question for you, Mason. If you're resolving a Tersa trigger in paper, you shuffle the graveyard. Do you roll a die or do you just pick one?
I pick one. Life short.
There you go. I
Yeah.
respect it.
I want you to know if we burning inquiries and we got 6 cards, I'm
We're
also
picking.
picking. We're
Oh
picking.
yeah, yeah. I don't roll a die. I'm with
Same
you.
same thing though. If you're like we're gonna roll and you're like stern about it, and I can't just like look at you like, oh, then I'll roll because life's short. I gotta start rolling.
Just give him the stare.
Like, sure you want to do this? It's like when someone says I don't want to do even odds, and I give them a little look, and they kind of look back. I'm like, all right, fair enough.
Are we doing this?
Yeah. All right, here comes the cats. Speaking of, are we doing this? Zoe trying to figure out how we're gonna get out of this one.
Okay, I was trying to figure out what got
Ooh,
untapped, and it looked like
yeah.
Jacob hadn't resolved that yet. Okay, so the
Okay.
Mako is untapped, which is good for Zoe because Zoe can trade one of the curiosities for that. So you trade curiosity. I guess it's not a trade because of the cauldron, but curiosity on Mako, other curiosity on Tursa, and then take 4 from the FOMO. Maybe leave around the Flood Pits Drowner. Okay. So double block the Mako, chump block the FOMO, take the Tursa. So this actually leaves Jacob with the option to not use the Cauldron before damage, and then do that play that I mentioned where it's, with the Curiosity trigger on the stack, eat it with the Cauldron.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he's actually just exiling the bat instead. Okay, interesting. So trade happens. All that. Zoe takes 4-3. I mean, doesn't look awful.
Yeah, I mean, Zoe's like, she's kind of in it. I mean, we talked about it being sort of highly unlikely that she gets her out of here, but you were able to kind of like paint a path, and it's kind of looking like we're getting close to it.
Yeah, because now she gets to draw, up to 4 cards, presumably attack with both. Draw 4 cards, maybe find, a Flood Pits or 2, a couple of interactive spells. Just getting him at the bat, okay.
Okay. Oh, and there's End the Flood Maw.
Ooh, that's big.
Yeah, Zoe not getting the 2 cards, and also that 1 life is not nothing. Obviously, this turn it wouldn't super duper matter, but it builds up, obviously.
Yeah, and now if she wants to take the Flood Maw back out of Jacob's hand, she has to tap 2 mana, which maybe she needed that to cast another piece of interaction on Jacob's turn.
Yeah.
So taxing the mana is pretty rough here.
Okay, so she has Hardcast Kaito. This lets us stun something, which is like blocking. Honestly, it's like blocking for 2 turns.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So presumably stun. I guess she's thinking about Scholar versus FOMO. It's tricky because the FOMO can offer additional combat steps, assuming we still have Delirium, which I think we do. I know there was cards exiled off Tursa, but going after the Tursa instead. Okay. So that'll maybe cut Jacob off of having access to some extra cards off the Tursa. And then maybe something like, well, see here, even if, okay, I guess if Zoe has a piece of removal, no, it's still not good enough, right?
It's not good enough, yeah, because
she kills the Scholar, and the FOMO has enough toughness to get past the Curiosity.
Yeah, Zoe needed like double Tragic Trajectory. But I guess you could into the Flood Maw at the start of combat. That would have worked. Right? No, not in the Flood Maw. Excuse me, Flood Pit Drowner. I misspoke. Wrong card.
Flood. Oh, yeah, because then you'd have 2 blockers. Yep. Yeah, Jacob can also just Flood Maw the Curiosity.
Yeah, it looks like Jacob's playing it a little safe.
Yeah, I mean, this is just not good enough, right? Unless we have life totals wrong. That's a possibility.
Well, Jacob isn't taking... Zoe blocked, right? And then kills both the other ones. So Jacob isn't doing any damage. So
right, Zoe's but he has a second combat step.
Oh, yeah. My mistake. Yeah, it looks like Zoe even did the same thing, too, of like, I'm alive. And Jacob's like, I'll attack again. And she's like, yeah, my bad. And listen, that happens sometimes. I've been in the booth for 5 hours. Zoe's been in the streets for 5 hours. It happens.
Oh, I get it. I'm with you.
Anyways, let's check out Zoe's sideboard here and see what she potentially wants to bring in. As she does have a couple of cards here. We got a Preacher of the Schism, Tashani's Tidebinder, Akhlazot's Deepest Betrayal, Kaito, Bane of Nightmares, 2 Annul, 2 Duress, Disdainful Stroke, Negate, 3 Strategic Betrayals, a Fabloom Trick, and a Nowhere to Run. What do you like here?
Yeah, you highlighted those Strategic Betrayals. I'm assuming that she is playing 3 copies of those because they seem pretty good in a matchup like this. Getting to, the Cauldron deck is very good at sizing, like getting a large creature into play. So not only being able to get large creatures out of the way, but also exiling the graveyard, shutting off things like Tursa and Fear of Missing Out, exiling Vivi. So very, very important card for this matchup. And then, as I mentioned previously, Annul and Tashana's Tidebinder also phenomenal. There was you called out earlier some of the best cards in the Cauldron deck are Cauldron and Profs, and Annul being able to answer both of those at a 1 minute discount, very, very cheap, efficient card. And then Tidebinder being able to shut off Cauldron and also just even the ETB trigger on Tashana stopping like Tursa, Steam Core Scholar, things like that.
Yeah, this list looks a lot like the one that Steven Dykman played earlier in our tournament when we were watching him. I wonder if these two work together or maybe, got a similar list. But yeah, I mean, it looked pretty good there and it's looking pretty good now. These Tidebinders are really good. I got to see more Tidebinders of the blue white deck, Devin. After I've been watching today,
That's
it's
what
so
I'm
good.
saying.
It's so good. Yeah. Get this
I'm with you.
Overlord of the Mistmores out of your deck. You want it for blue black? You know what I want to do? Pick up your card, try to Kaido me, see what happens. Speaking of trying to Kaido, let's see what we can do on the other side to stop some Kaidos here from Jacob. As we have lots of cards in our sideboard that could potentially come in here. 2 Quantum Riddlers, 2 Annul, 2 Fire Magic, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Torch the Tower, 2 Disdainful Stroke, a Torch the Witness, a Braid, and Pyroclasm. What do you like here, Devin, and why?
So typically from the blue-red side of things, the sweepers here I think are pretty good from Jacob's side, both Fire Magic and Pyroclasm. The Dimir deck is very good at putting a bunch of cheap threats into play, things like Spyglass Siren, Flood Pit's Drowner, Deshana's Tidebinder, and sort of curving that into an Enduring Curiosity. So getting to clean up the battlefield early for Jacob is something that I think he definitely wants access to. And then the Torch the Towers, fantastic against something like Enduring Curiosity. Although I will mention, Jacob doesn't like this VV Cauldron deck compared to the Prowess variants, does not
Mhm.
actually have a ton of things they want to sacrifice to bargain for the Torch the Tower.
Mhm.
Like sometimes you can sacrifice an extra Prophecytic Memory, maybe these like the Roaring Furnace if you've already used the damage half, maybe an extra Cauldron, but not a ton of things to actually bargain here, unlike the deck with Storm Chasers and things like that. So the
Mhm.
removal spells, the sweepers, and then I think that's really all Jacob is looking for here.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Well, these players are shuffling up really quick here. Let's talk about our last 2 events for the year 2025. We are going to be in Mundelein, Illinois, September 13th and the 14th. Saturday, we have a 10K Modern Showdown, and Sunday, a 2.5K Legacy Trial and a 2.5K Edge of Eternity Sealed Trial. We're going to stream you the Legacy event, so make sure to follow along here that we don't miss any of that action. And then for the last event of the year, November 1st and 2nd, we're going to Elmhurst, Illinois, for a Saturday 10K Team Showdown, Standard, Sealed, Modern, and then Sunday 10K Modern Showdown as well to wrap up the year and see who will be going to champs as well. And speaking of champs, let's head to that feature match here. These players are hoping to earn some leaderboard points and make it there as they are drawn up. Looks like Fire Magic in hand for Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Jacob fan, you do love to see that. But yeah, you mentioned not a ton of events here to wrap up the not a ton of events left to wrap up the year, and we're getting very very close to that sort of champs push. It'll be
Mhm.
interesting to see if those players towards the top of our leaderboard, if they can make a push, and if anybody can actually catch Grayson.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Grayson, like, obviously locked for champs, whatever, has already got that invite, has a good lead on the field currently when it comes to leaderboard points, but not so much that it's insurmountable, right? Grayson, we had an interview with him in round 2, said, I'm going to be at all the events of the year, kind of locks up, a minimum of another 12 points or whatever. So we can kind of put Grayson at, hey, if you just owe X or whatever, that's going to happen. But Grayson's been doing pretty well, so I don't expect a lot of OXs.
No. All right,
As it
so
looks like.
Zoe on 6 here. Maybe looking for bit of an aggressive start here. But as you mentioned, the Fire Magic in Jacob's hand, very, very good against a lot of the hands that Dimir, a lot of the good hands that Dimir can produce, which are like the 1, 2, 3 curve. I guess if your 3 is Kaido and you're on the play, then maybe that could be a thing. But for say for example, if Zoe goes Spyglass on 1 and Flood Pits on 2, Jacob can just do the 1 damage part of Fire Magic and clean up those creatures before Zoe can even get the Kaido into play.
Mm-hmm. All right, Duress is the play here for Zoe. Leads on Island first. That way the Verge can make black. Let's see if Jacob has anything we're going to respond with. Let's torch the tower that Spyglass Siren. Zoe's going to allow that. 3 lands, 3 spells. Agatha's Winter Night Stories and that Fire Magic we had talked about, along with Island, Starting Town, Mountain.
Yeah, this duress decision will sort of maybe give a maybe more of an indicator on what Zoe is working with. You can imagine maybe if she has something like a creature to play this turn, maybe she wants to take the Fire Magic. Like if her hand was second Spyglass plus Kaido, maybe you take the Fire Magic and try to set that up. Or if that's not the case, maybe she wants to just take something like Stories, because the rest of
Yeah.
Jacob's hand is not really that good, right?
Yeah, I really like this too because Zoe has a null in hand. So if
Yep.
she just passes, there's nothing up either too. It's not like, oh, why is she holding up this island? She had to play the island to make the verge work. So Jacob can maybe play around the annul, but even if he does, Zoe doesn't have a whole lot in her hand. She can just sit around too and sort of hold up this annul for the rest of the game and just look like, yeah, I'm on a mulligan. I don't know, man. My draw didn't come together.
Yeah, and interesting, that turn she picked up a Flood Pits. So now, if we're
Yeah.
doing this dance again where Jacob still doesn't want to play into the annul, she can actually use her mana now.
Yep. And here is a marauding Mako. And
here's where this fire magic is kind of awkward because now the Mako's in play. You don't really want to kill the Flood Pits around her.
yep. And nothing looks the wiser too from Jacob. Jacob's playing around this Agatha's, but as long as Zoe, kind of uses her mana in a believable way, Jacob might be thinking, am I overthinking it? Do I need to take a risk here?
I was just about to ask, is Jacob going to pop this fire magic off because Zoe played the third land and he's so afraid of Kaido? I
Yeah.
mean, you'll take that if you're Zoe, right? A clean 2-for-1 on her side.
That's great. And she gets to play this Spyglass Siren and pop a map too. Yeah, here she goes.
Yeah. See, now it's a little more telling, right? If you don't pop the second map, but Jacob has played seemed to be played around in the last couple of turns, so maybe Jacob already kind of assumes it's there, but now you can almost guarantee that it's there.
Yeah, now he knows it's up. It's no longer kind of believable that you've had this mana laying around.
Yeah. That's
But
a
null hits it, and I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable, for Zoe to fight over this. She needs to draw cards like Enduring Curiosity or Kaito that both need a little bit of help.
When an awkward fourth lane here for Jacob that's starting town means that he can't deploy that Agatha Soul Cauldron after, basically Jacob, had sort of knew the annul was there, wanted to try and find a bait spell to get it out of Zoe's hand, was able to do that, but didn't have the fourth lane to be able to deploy that cauldron that turn.
Yeah. And now
you got a 3/3. That thing doesn't die of torch or fire magic.
Not easily. And Zoe still has some card in hand too, right? And it's not unreasonable for Jacob to be like, is that another annul? These lists often play two. You fought over this other card and my namesake's here. Jacob decides to run it out still. Now Jacob's like, what in the world's in Zoe's hand?
You can probably assume it's not a Kaido because she would have done that last turn with the 3 mana. Definitely not a Curiosity because she would have done that here. So probably a removal spell if I had to guess.
Yeah, removal spell and Tidebinder being the one you're maybe a little afraid of, but kind of have to play into. As here's a Profs. There goes it being Tidebinder. Probably would have taken the little shot in the arm there.
Here we go. Yeah, so that was probably the draw for this last turn. And now here, something like a Curiosity looks fantastic, although it does not look like she found it.
Yeah, Zoe made a very disciplined mulligan, and on her 2-lander, bottomed the Curiosity. Obviously, the way the game's played out, the kill spell she kept in hand looks a little silly, but at the time, there's no way for her to really know that. Yeah, get that null out of there. Play around that Snapcaster Mage.
Storm Chaser's talent, pick up my annul.
Oh, yeah.
We're cooking.
Yeah. This town ain't big enough,
Ooh, too soon.
Too soon. Steam Core Scholar coming down. It's a 2/2. It's pretty big. It's getting bigger.
It's only a 2/2 for a hot minute.
It's a Detective's Elemental, so it's not it is outlawable or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is not an outlaw. Detective Elemental is what a weird set of creature types.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's Weird Detective. That's what it is.
It's a weird detective. Okay.
It is actually weird.
That is funny. I was gonna say, give me some Risen Reach with that one, As we see all right, Spyglass Siren off the top. Yeah, pop that map.
Probably on the Spyglass. Maybe just make that a little bit bigger. Something like a fire magic, because now Jacob actually has 6 mana, so he could just do the fully kicked fire magic.
Yeah. Zoe with her cards in hand forgot to pay for her map. Oops. It works out. And now we have a Tidebinder. This is so awkward, Devin, because we're attacking for 6 here.
Mm-hmm.
So Jacob's at 3. So do we really want this card? But if Jacob answers everything like with a fire magic, then I really want this card.
Yeah. Interesting. I think I would be maybe inclined to keep it just because a lot of Jacob's best draws are things that find more cards like Steam Core, Tursa, things of that nature. And Tidebinder
Mhm.
does kind of lock those down. And you mentioned the big worry here is a 6 mana fire magic, just cleaning up your board and you're left with nothing and you kind of want a threat. Maybe she figures that if in the worst case scenario he does have fire magic, she needs something like, maybe a.
Oh,
Oh my
wowee.
goodness. Oh, that is the one. Yes, one copy of Twin Maw Stormbrood, and very rarely hardcast in this deck, but Mason, it comes up sometimes.
Yeah, pull up the Twin Ball for those at home. They probably know it for its Omen side. All right, here's a Spyglass Siren. Pop the map.
And that sure does check the board. So now Zoe doesn't really have any great attacks here. And if we can get Jacob's life total updated, it should be plus, I believe, +4, because he took 1 to cast it and then it gained 5. So I think Jacob should be at 7.
Yeah. So can Zoe go around it right now is the real question.
Yeah, just try to go wide.
Yeah. 5 damage. I'm sure 4 damage is what you push through at the moment. Jacob once again's life total is at 7. Yeah. Now with a Kaito, we're starting to cook a little bit.
Yeah, I mean any way to clear a blocker, Kaito, Flood Pits, removal spell. That's what Zoe's really looking for here.
I guess the creature land in play kind of plays. I wonder if Zoe was supposed to just. I guess she didn't have it before. Excuse me. She got it off the map.
Yeah, she hit it off the map.
Yeah, like next turn, I guess she's supposed to attack with everything. I don't know. It's getting weird now that this FOMO's in play.
Yeah, just like get the reef in there, send everything. Maybe go like Twin Mob, block Spyglass. Maybe you have to chump the reef and still take 4. But now
Something
the
like
FOMO, which is gonna maybe get a couple counters with the props here. And actually now, if Jacob puts counters in the FOMO, that can actually trade for the Restless Reef, not even a chump block anymore. So now your blocks look a little bit better for Jacob. Ooh, interesting. Counters on the Twin Maw. Let's see what Zoe finds here. This is a big draw step. Really needs to find removal spell, Flood Pits, Drowner, Kaido. I mean, there's plenty of cards that do it. That's basically half of Zoe's deck at this point. Just a way to get a blocker out of here so she can push through a whole bunch of damage.
Yeah, you see Zoe doing math. Kind of known for playing combo decks or like attacking decks, and even some of the combo decks like Living In that she played for basically the year 2023. It's an attacking deck. A lot of games won off, how do I attack with these creatures and figure out what to do from here?
We're lining up 4 mana. Maybe that means Restless Reef. Yep.
Leaving up the basic instead of the dual.
Love it. Get him in there. So now what do Jacob's blocks look like? See, this is kind of why I was curious that Jacob put the counters on the Stormbrood and not the FOMO, because if we had 2 counters on the FOMO, Jacob could have traded for the Restless Reef, eaten the 3/3, taken 4, fallen down to 3. You keep the Stormbrood, so he loses 2 things. But now you kind of have to eat the 3/3 and chump the Reef, and you're still taking 4. But now Zoe has the Reef, able to attack again next turn.
Makes sense. Yeah, Jacob's doing a little math.
Yeah, maybe he's thinking about trading the Stormbrood. Oh, he's thinking about trading there and going to 1.
Okay, well, you can also can't we Agatha's the fear
yeah,
keep it?
it's a good point. There's got to be a creature in the graveyard.
Yeah, Zoe just milled 4 cards with her creature land. I'd be shocked if there wasn't. All right,
yeah, so he's gonna take that line and fall to 2. Is that water grave? I thought it was another reef. Never mind.
Yeah, another reef would have been nice. Torch the Tower is a pretty good one there for Jacob, but we're not out of the woods yet.
It just feels like not quite good enough. He just needs like sort of 1 extra removal spell or 1 extra blocker. We're tapping 5. This is This is a 5-mana Winter Knight. That's desperation mode right there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're hoping to hit like land plus 1-mana interaction spell. There
Yeah, and
was
then
a
you
VV in
go.
hand. We could have played.
Oh, well, now if there's a VV, he can actually just discard the VV to the stories and then exile with the Cauldron. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was a VV in hand. Okay, well now Jacob is kind of cooking. 'Cause now,
Yeah.
okay, and this kind of explains why he put the counters in the Stormbreed last turn. He just wanted the biggest creature possible because he knew that he was going to set up for discarding VV this turn.
Yeah, but can we use this mana? I mean, it's a lot of mana. You see Jacob kind of shaking his head. He has that witness, like cleanse the witness or whatever, the red X spell in hand, and a
Torch the
torch.
Witness. It
Torch the
doesn't go
witness.
upstairs, right?
It doesn't know, but it will create a clue and some cards. So
Excess
like
damage. Okay, got it.
this means Jacob can like basically, and I'm pretty sure it was it. Maybe that land is what I thought was the witness. But
Yeah,
currently,
for the folks at home who maybe haven't seen this card, if we can get it up on screen, it's Torch the Witness. It's like a fireball-esque sort of thing where it gives you a little ways to use some extra mana from your VV Cauldron. Deals twice X damage to a creature, and then if you deal excess damage, you make a clue. So it is a way to like kill a big thing and maybe draw an extra card if you have some extra mana.
yeah. So with the with the Twin Maw, we're basically going to spend X's 1 because that will do double damage to the Spyglass, right? Then
Yep.
we'll get a clue, and then we'll draw a card, and then hope to do something from there. So I think Jacob's thinking about how do I arrange my mana in such a way that I can maybe kill you or go crazy from here.
Yeah. What mana do I want to have left over? Yeah, well, it seems like he's made a decision. Yeah, we got a reader on that one. I'll be honest with you, Mason. Before today, I'd never seen that card in my life. So
Oh yeah, I forgot about that card. I saw it back in the old MKM, but that's it.
Okay, some limited to that format. You got to imagine that card's good and limited, right?
No, I just read every set,
Oh, well, that too. Yeah, sure.
Oh yes, torch the tower. Can't attack there, Jacob. I saw you get a little frisky with your hand.
You thought about it.
Yeah. Yeah, this profs goes over.
Yeah, and see, this is kind of going back to that turn, where if Jacob had put counters in the FOMO and Reef could have been traded for, maybe this looks a little bit different. But I mean, if you're in Jacob's side, you have stabilized. Oh,
no, not anymore. All right, game number 3 here. Zoe top decks a way to tap it down, and it gets across the finish line there. Whew.
Impressive.
A small misstep has big implications in Magic.
Yeah, it's weird, right? It's not even necessarily a misstep per se because Jacob knew he had the VV in hand that he was setting up for a discard next turn, and he just wanted to make the largest creature possible to get the most amount of mana on the following turn. So it's sort of like you're sort of weighing the options of having the like spreading around the power that turn and maybe trading off the FOMO in combat, or having access to a boatload more mana next turn, which if he found a couple of spells off of that Winter Knight, maybe the extra mana would have been more important on that turn.
But wouldn't putting the counters on FOMO be more mana anyways?
Well, not if you trade the FOMO in combat for the Reef.
But you don't have to, though, right?
Sure, that's fair.
Yeah, like if you're trying to maximize mana, but I guess what I'm saying is my critique is more there's a bit of inconsistency with the play line, right? It's like if we're trying to maximize mana and we're also trying to maximize winning, the FOMO line that you suggested does that and gives us the buyout clause of I'll block the Restless Reef if it comes in, right? You sort of get the best of both worlds. But it's really hard with all these decks going on, right? Like game planning out all these multiple turns is not easy. And it's something that, definitely can be missed, and especially in the moment too, where it's like you're thinking about all these cards and maybe you're playing around this one instead of that one, right? So it's definitely not an easy moment, but that's more to speak to what I was talking about of like, we had an idea of trying to get the most mana, which at first glance was the Twin Maw, but in reality, it was actually your line of the FOMO that insulates us as well with the Restless Leaf line and gives us more flexibility, and maybe would have won that game on that turn too, right? That fear of missing out would have attacked with twice. Twin Maw was pretty huge. I don't know. It would have been a really weird game.
Yeah.
Either way, our players are in the future match area shuffling up for game number 3 here to see who is going to make it to our end of the year championship. And let's take a look at what these players are playing for today, prize wise, in case you want to come out and play in one of these events as well. As we have the breakdown here. First place gets $2,400, 30 points, NRG Champs invite, and a regional championship invite. Second place, $1,200, 25 points, regional championship invite. Third and fourth, $800, 20 leaderboard points, regional championship invite. Then fifth through eighth, $400 dues, 15 points, 9 through 16, 200, and 17 through 32nd, 100. And then a points going all the way down. And you'll see lots of times our players who are on the leaderboard race, they will play out every single round, try and get that difference between 2 and 3 points. We've seen it before where player of the year is decided by a single point. So every single tournament matters. It's very awesome to see the consistent results rewarded. You can come on out and try your hand at that, especially with 2026 coming around the corner here, Devin. Could be your time to shine.
Absolutely. Well, not me specifically. I don't know. Norm's been asking me a couple of times to get out to an event, so we'll have to see what happens next year. But
sure. Well, you're gonna be either with us here or with us there, so we'll have to see where it goes. This is going to a game 3 though, as these players are dealing out their hands here.
Yeah, and then we're gonna see Jacob on the play here for game number 3. And that's obviously the play draw definitely matters a lot in these with both of these decks per se, because they're both sort of aggressive decks that want to get onto the battlefield as early as possible. And with something like Jacob's deck, because he wants to be able to set up that sort of combo turn with Cauldron and VV. Just wants to sort of do that before. And Marauding Mako is certainly a card that is much better on the play than versus the draw, when you're able to get out ahead and kind of curve that into the sort of the FOMOs and the Tursus of the world.
Yeah, being on the play is kind of always great, but with this deck where it has a backup plan of being the beatdown, it's extra nice. Looks like both players are mulliganing here. Who do you think is favored if we mulligan to 5?
If they both mulligan to 5, I think I still like Jacob.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Just because Zoe sort of needs like the right mix of pressure and removal, especially going second. I mean, she would obviously, maybe she would prefer the removal to be going second, especially if Jacob has one of those aggressive starts. But I mean, you saw in game 2 there, the sideboard cards came in very clutch. There was the annul on that very pivotal turn. That was she had the option to keep Tidebinder, which she chose not to. But yeah, I think I would take Jacob on both multi 5.
Yeah, I think Jacob has a higher chance of getting like the draw that runs away with the game.
Higher ceiling.
Yeah. But Zoe has some good draws for sure. It's not like it's doomed if she goes to 5 and Jacob goes to 5 as well. Looks like they are both happy with their 6, pretty quickly mulliganing here. And here's that Marauding Mako Pirate.
Yeah, now if you're Zoe, you have to hope that you don't have all Shoot the Sheriffs in hand.
Yep. I was gonna say, you kind of want to have a null too, just even if Jacob ends up playing like a Fear Missing Out or whatever, all the turn 2 plays just get annulled. And yeah. Discard that Verge, draw a card, grow the Mako, attack in for 2.
There is this like real sort of sigh of relief there from if you're Zoe, where on turn 2, if you see a VV discarded, your heart kind of sinks a little bit. But when you see the River Pyre Verge on turn 2 discard, you kind of like have this sort of like alarm bells going off in your head, like, okay, well, maybe I have an extra turn to like tap out this turn, and I don't have to hold up interaction just in case Jacob has the Cauldron VV start.
Yeah, it looks like Jacob had 2 lands prof here. So just 2 lands left over. And Zoe, I think, has 2 Curiosities in hand, Devin, but I didn't see another land. So that might be the deal breaker here. Oh, looks like Jacob drew Quantum Riddler. And with only 1 card in hand because of the land for turn, we draw 2. I think they're both lands, though, but that is potentially game-winning here for Jacob. Drawing 2 more turns of lands might have not been a feasible way to win the game as an attack for 4 comes across.
Yeah, and now also Jacob has, the requisite mana to just hardcast the Riddler on turn 5. If when we get to that point, the Deep Cavern Bat sort of doing Jacob a little bit of a favor there, getting rid of 1 card to get him down to 1 or less for the Riddler trigger. That was kind of interesting.
Okay, interesting here. Zoe doesn't want to pop a map on anything to try and get a land. No, she wants to have 2 mana up. Feels like a Flood Pit Drowner, but who knows?
Yeah, that's interesting. Where maybe she doesn't have something like an annul, and maybe she just doesn't, like you said, doesn't want to take the risk of potentially not hitting a land and wants to hold up yeah, like you said, Flood Pits Drowner, maybe a removal spell potentially if she's worried about, well, I guess Jacob's not really that close to Delirium.
Yeah, and Zoe has 3 cats in hand. Very
Three?
disciplined. Yeah, there's
Oh,
3
goodness.
cats in there. I'm allergic. I keep my eyes out.
That's a lot of cats.
Yeah, meow. All right, beginning of combat here. Uh-oh. Flood Pit Drowner. But the real question is, which one do you want to get? The Mako's obviously one bigger.
Oh, she
Look,
actually chose to not use the Flood Pits before attack, so maybe just a removal spell here. Yeah, Bitter Triumph. I think she's got enough cats to discard. Can probably afford to get rid of one of those.
has some lives to give.
Yeah. 1 down, 8 to go.
Mm-hmm.
For the viewers watching at home, she's not playing 8 copies of Enduring Curiosity. Just want to point that out.
She is playing 8 copies of Gonna Go Hang Out with Her Friends after this round at this rate because Fire Magic cleans the board up and she does not draw a land and no map here, just a pass of the turn. Zoe's been in these spots before on both sides, understands it's what happens here sometimes. And unfortunately, a play that made a lot of sense of trying to maybe, ambush the Mako next turn because Jacob was just top decking, right? You kind of knew what was in the hand. Didn't quite work out as Profs comes down here, and Jacob Tano is going to play a Fear of Missing Out and maybe enable Delirium here as there goes Agatha's Soul Cauldron. A
Artifact.
1, a 2, a 3. Oh, that's a bunch of
Artifact,
damage.
instant, creature, land. Yeah, I think we're at 4.
Yep. And Fear of Missing Out with Profs is such a powerful end game.
Yeah, now thankfully for Zoe, she does have the Flood Pits Drowner to not just be, outright dead this turn. But yeah, like you mentioned, she's just falling too far behind. And that's sort of exactly, why Fire Magic is such an amazing card in this matchup. It's just that like the Dimir cards, the Dimir creatures, it's I guess like Dimir is all about like critical mass, right? A whole bunch of creatures and assembling a wide battlefield. But most of them have 1 toughness, Mason, and Fire Magic can be very, very backbreaking in those spots.
Definitely can. Well, congratulations there. And Zoe's still battling it out for X and 2. Could get some leaderboard points and maybe sneak in. We'll have to see how everything breaks down. But speaking of breaking down, we've broken down Ross Merriman enough to tag him into the booth. He's going to take over for me. Devin, it was great working with you and Corbin earlier today to cover all these rounds. I will see you all tomorrow for our team event that is Standard, Modern, Pauper with old Devin here to start off the day. So we'll see you then. And we have more magic left for you today. So stay tuned.